Welcome back to the Fitness League, helping busy humans build strong bodies, sharper minds, and better lives. Join us each week as we cut through the noise, challenge the norms, and empower you to train smarter and live stronger. If you told me 6 months ago I'd be running 4 days a week, I would probably laugh in your face. Now it's actually one of the best parts of my routine. Today I'm sharing the honest journey from hating running to loving it, plus interviewing my wife over here, a seasoned runner, about how beginners can actually start enjoying the process too. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I will say, after I made a little reel of our running date yesterday, I got at least 5 messages asking how I made you like running, because you have openly stated on the podcast here quite a few times, I feel like, over the years that you've hated it, and that is no longer the case. But my answer, before you answer, to these people was, it wasn't really me. I just kind of kept running, I kept doing what I'm doing. I think you had to come to this decision on your own.
I don't want to say I've always wanted to like running. I've always wanted to get to a point where I could include it consistently, because growing up, I was always, like, from the time I was a teenager, borderline pre-hypertensive. So my heart rate, for as long as I can remember, my blood pressure, for as long as I can remember, was about 135 over 85, 86, 87, 88, 90, kind of in that range, basically like clockwork. Zooming out, so like fast forwarding to today, a lot of that I truly believe had to do with all my gut stuff, like chronic inflammation and bacterial overgrowth, no good gut bacteria. When we talk about gut health and fiber and all these things we can do to improve, like lifestyle wise, to make our guts healthier, your gut plays such a big role in so many different areas. To kind of zoom out, that was a big part of it, just going through the big cycle that I did with the kill phase, the rebuild phase, the maintenance phase. That alone helped bring down chronic inflammation. Energy came up, and as a byproduct of that, I believe that set a new baseline for me. But my blood pressure has still been higher than I would like it to be, given all of the things that I do, being so health and fitness focused, lingering high 70s, touching 80-ish. Ideally, I'd like to bring that down to, 110-ish over 70-ish. So this has been on my radar for a while. Long story short, my plan was never to fall in love with running, and I still wouldn't say I'm there, but I am beginning to enjoy it. But even at the beginning of my commitment to doing this running program, so we have, 4 running programs within the app. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have 4. We have like straight up couch to 5K total beginner run walk program. We have Extend, which is more of a, I guess, like after that program, like up to a 10K distance. And then we have 2 half marathon programs currently in the current SDE Method app. But my plan is to add a lot more options of programs and just varying run workouts for you guys in the Fitness League app.
So I'm doing the begin half. So basically the beginner-ish training to run a half marathon. So I committed to that. It's 4 days a week, slowly building mileage. I think the whole program it ends up averaging 20 miles per week, but we start off right around 15. So even beginning this, I still was not loving it. I was committed to it. I was going to keep doing it, but 2 main shifts, I think, that made it more enjoyable, which was surprising to me, like these 2 minimal things. First one was keep my heart rate lower. So when you're running on red, like the entire time, it's not enjoyable. Doesn't matter if you're going a mile, if you're going 3 miles, if you're going 10 miles. Like when you are running in the red, you're redlining it. It's exhausting, and it takes a lot to recover from that. And it's just not an enjoyable process on top of everything else that you're doing. So scaling that back to truly being in zone 2. People talk about zone 2 as this magical zone, and others will talk about it like it's such a waste of your time and it's so stupid to focus on it. Running in zone 2 when your goal is to build your aerobic capacity is critical. Strictly because of the ability to recover is way easier than if you are cycling through zone 2 and then zone 3 and then zone 4 and then touching zone 5 and then come back to zone 4 and then slow down to zone 3. If you stay, like I'm hitting zone 3 for a good portion of that as well. But that's more so like just going off of, perceived exertion versus specifically my heart rate. Like if I can hold a conversation, that's kind of the zone 2 threshold you're going for, and you're going to recover pretty well from that. So first thing, scaling back to truly staying primarily in zone 2 during my runs. And the second one was pretty shocking, but I guess I was overstriding. So we were talking about it on an episode actually, and I took that into account for my next run. I just shortened my stride, which felt a little choppier initially, but my legs were way less fatigued. So maybe if you could talk, I don't understand that even truly, but why does overstriding put so much more stress on your legs?
When you are overstriding, you're typically landing on your heel first. So think of taking like really big steps. You're landing heel first, then the middle of your foot, then the toe of your foot. And this obviously is just not great from the perspective of landing on your heel. Like it's just over time that can cause a lot of overuse injuries and just injuries in general. And I do want to backtrack for a second and say, like, I don't want to be talking about this and have you like become so hyper aware of how you're moving that it feels so totally wrong to run. Like at the end of the day, if you're new to running, just start running and don't like stress over these little, not that these are little things, but don't stress over these details to start because they may not even be an issue for you. So my best advice for beginner runners is to simply start. But like Josh said, like these two things really helped him learn to love running more. And I think these two things are often the biggest pieces of the puzzle that people don't really realize as they get further into their running journeys that are holding them back. So, you're overstriding, just it gets to a point where it feels good until it doesn't anymore. And it does feel really weird to start taking smaller steps. It almost feels like you're, I guess, like kind of shuffling a little bit. I don't know. How would you describe like going from when you were overstriding to now?
I wouldn't call it shuffling. I would say like I said before, I think it just feels a little choppy. And it's like when you want to run fast, you're thinking about like exploding and your stride naturally lengthens, which is how I would run playing sports, obviously. But given the amount of ease that's kind of coming into play when you do shorten that, like they're shorter, but they're quicker. Like as you're picking up your pace, you can go quicker. So once you kind of get used to it and stopping that overstride, it gets a little smoother, I would say. So now my focus is like I'm trying to glide. It's almost like I don't want to call it a power walk. Like I'm doing a decent pace. I can break 9 minutes a mile for some of these longer-ish runs. But it's more like how can I not stomp? Like, because I'm a naturally heavy walker as well. I'm 195 pounds, so it's not, like I'm running at a buck 40. So I'm trying to glide through the whole run. These shorter steps are making it easier. I'm also trying to basically, you're still going to hear it, but like not hear my footsteps so I can really lighten each step going through. So initially choppy, but definitely has gotten smoother more throughout the process. So those are my big two. And I would say the third component of that is it's also having a plan. Before I was just going out and running 1 or 2 days a week, a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles. And what I've noticed through these programs is like even now in a long run, I ran 7 miles the other day. The first mile and to mile and a half is literally the hardest part. And I don't understand why, if that's your second wind kicking in after that, literally, or what's going on. But like once you get through that, I can kind of coast almost like it feels like forever. I was not tired at the end of that 7 mile run.
It's really just your body warming up. Like maybe you need to spend some more time warming up, hint, hint. But I would say that's pretty normal for most people, myself included. Like the first mile, like never judge your run by the first mile because oftentimes that mile won't feel great, especially like as we get into the colder months. Like I would go out and run that first mile or two for my longer ones, not last winter because I was pregnant, but the one before that. Or actually it might have been 2. Anyway, we've had lots of babies over here, but you just feel your body just isn't warm yet. And you're not really in that groove where you can just kind of coast and go and not really have to think so much about like what your body is doing. But I find once you do get warm and you get in your running groove, like you said, miles 2, 3, 4 plus often feel really good because you can just like zone out and your body knows what it's doing and you just cruise.
So when you say warming up, I know and I understand in this traditional sense, but I've also read a little bit about like the actual like the temperature warming up of your body playing a role, and that's why some higher intensity, like very short bursts, but like doing some box jumps or like more of a jog than a power walk to get going to actually elevate your core body temperature. I've heard that. I've also heard people utilizing sauna pre-workout, which I have always been against because I'm tired and loopy when I get out of the sauna. Like I'm in there at 190 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, and like a workout after that does not sound performance optimizing to me. So when you say warm up, I understand going through general range of motion, preparing those muscles to, activate whether you're lifting or running. But have you looked into the actual heating up process as part of the warm up? And would you consider the sauna pre-run?
I personally would not do the sauna pre-run unless I would say like here we are in New England in the winter and it's freezing out and I just kind of want to get that chill out of my body maybe, but I wouldn't do like our typical 190-degree Fahrenheit sauna sessions for 20 minutes before a run because I definitely don't feel like high performance after that, if you will. There's been, I don't know if you've ever talked about this on the podcast, but we talked about like just heat adaptations and like throwing in the sauna after a cardio session might be helpful. But as far as warm up, like when you think about like, I think about what I learned getting my degree in exercise science back in the day, like a warm up literally is the purpose of it is to warm up your body. So yes, there is like the mechanical aspect of like loosening up your hips and your ankles and your knees and all of that and doing more of a dynamic flow based warm up, which is what I do for both lifts and runs now. The running one is a little bit more just high impact, I guess. So like I'll start with like a dynamic flow based warm up, just kind of squatting through full range of motion, some lunges, cross kicks, things like that. But then I'll add in like pogo hops and more of like that dynamic explosive work just to really prime my body for what running is. And with that, I think you're obviously, if you're jumping around and you're moving around, you're getting your body warm temperature wise too. So I think it kind of just hits two birds with one stone, if you will. So I wouldn't necessarily say the sauna would be better because you're just sitting there. You're not actually doing all the other things that are required to prime your body for the workout you're about to do.
All right, so that was the first half of my third part. The second part is just finding a pot. Like even music, I can, but I prefer to find like a solid hour-long podcast, get into it, whether it's something I can kind of just zone out and listen to or something I'm thinking about business-wise, and then also going through these mind exercises of application. That's kind of why I've grown a bit more fond of running. Like once I've gotten into that meditative space on some of these longer runs, where I have the ability to not only think and come up with new ideas, but also formulate what those would look like application wise. So, kind of using this as like a productive meditation session for myself is kind of what I've grown into as far as enjoying that. So, those are the main pieces as far as my transition from totally hating running into like growing fond of it. I could see myself like, I think one way or another, we're going to run a half K, whether it's a race or we just do it if we're up north and the race is going on when we're away, but we're seeing a different trajectory here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, for me, I don't know if you were planning on getting into my story at all, but I guess that's kind of where it started for me too, as far as when I fell in love with running. Like I was in college and I don't remember like the first time I went for a true run then, but I just kind of started. And I actually think I watched the Boston Marathon one day at work and I was like, wow, it'd be really cool to do something like that one day. Like just the energy, like it just was inspiring, I guess. And at the time I was teaching a ton of just aerobic fitness classes. So I was doing a ton of cardio. So I feel like I almost had an advantage starting running then because my endurance and just aerobic capacity was so high just from teaching 7 cardio based classes per week. So I started running and I remember I started training for, actually I think it's today, is the New Haven road race, which it's a 15K or 20K. I can't remember. It's not quite a half marathon. It's just under a half marathon distance. And I was like, I'm going to just sign up for that. It was close to my house at the time, at my parents' house. And I was like, I'll just, go and I'll do that. And I remember I woke up that morning and it was like the most humid, muggy, hot day of the year. And I've been training for this race and my grandpa actually drove me down there because he was like, I'll just drop you off so you don't have to park and we'll come back and we'll watch you. And it was just like a thick, gross day. And I remember thinking like, oh man, this is going to be really hard. Granted, it was in New Haven, but there are I think there was like 1 or 2 hills on that course. And I remember just finishing that and I was like, I love this feeling. Like I got addicted to that feeling of finishing a race in that moment. And I ended up doing 2 more half distances after that, pretty soon after. I did one I think it was the New York City. No, now I'm getting confused. So that was August. Then I did a half in October. So a couple months after. And then I did the New York City half marathon in March. I just kind of did them all within like a 6-month time frame, which I'm not sure I would recommend. But at the time, I like look back now and I realize like I did pretty well. Like I ran those half marathons. I think my best one was 1:45 and my other one was like a 1:50. And during the time of my second one, I was actually also prepping for my bodybuilding show. So I was kind of like a hybrid athlete before it was cool, I guess. And everybody at the time in a powerhouse gym, they would be like, stop running so much. You're doing too much cardio. You can't do this while you're prepping for the bodybuilding show. Like all the meatheads were like, it's just too much. And then I had like all my runner friends that were like, you can't be prepping for that and fueling for this half marathon. And it was just, I definitely didn't do it the right way. Like looking back, I was not eating enough. I was not running. I don't even think I was doing an actual program. I kind of just constructed one with the minimal knowledge I had at the time, getting my degree in exercise science, which was not very much as far as running goes. And I kind of just did it. And I think I had my youth to my advantage. I had, just like I said, that endurance base to my advantage. Where was it optimal? Was it the most science-backed way of doing things? No, but I still crushed it. So I'm really excited to get back to that these days and get into another half marathon, just to kind of not necessarily beat my time back then. I would like to, but also just go about it in a better way that actually feels really good before, during, and after. And I think fuel is a big part of that. Training the right way is a big part of that. My strength base now, after 10 years of lifting, is a huge part of that. So, we live and we learn, but that's my journey. Obviously a big gap there with not running for a good chunk of time when I switched to powerlifting, but we still would go to the track and do sprints, and like we would hike a lot. So it's not like I don't think there was ever a time frame where we didn't do any cardio, like with just the way that we live our life. Like even in San Diego, like we would hike all the time, and I would run potato chip rock with our roommates at the time. So I don't think there was ever a time where we did no cardio at all. But as far as running and like the intensity of training for a race, like it's been a good decade since I've done something like that.
So I think we're hitting on one of the main pieces here. It's not, I wouldn't say it's quite the same as not having a lifting regimen. I think that is basically catastrophic. If you're doing some cardio, like your body's going to adapt, but having an actual running program to follow doesn't necessarily give you these checkpoints that you're aware of. Like a newbie might not be aware. I wasn't aware, but there are checkpoints and like, oh wait, we hit this phase and this is starting to click and it's getting easier and I can run a little further and it sucks a little bit less, versus like what I was doing 1 or 2 days a week. I'm like, oh, I'll build my aerobic capacity doing random runs at random paces, at random perceived exertions, intensities. And I was not getting any results. Like it wasn't getting easier. I wasn't getting through that initial phase. So having that structure is definitely a massive component. I guess if we kind of intertwine this now, would you say that's the biggest reason people hate running? I don't know of any beginner to running that is like, oh, I love this so much. This is so much fun. Is it because of that lack of structure? Everyone's kind of going out and doing it willy-nilly like myself. Is there any other piece to that, or is it just the difficulty and the unknown of how long this is going to suck for?
I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's the lack of, I mean, I guess in a way it's the lack of structure. I would say if you have never run before, or maybe it's been 10 years or a really long time and you want to get back into it, simply going out for that run without worrying about anything is probably the first step. Like we talk all the time about, we have to make fitness enjoyable. We have to make it something that we're actually going to commit to. So I think a lot of people do start like you did, where you just kind of go willy-nilly and do a run, which is okay for a short period of time. But just like you're going to get to a point where you're not progressing anymore. Maybe you don't enjoy it anymore because you're not progressing anymore, or you just feel just trashed after every single run because you are going out way too fast, or whatever the case may be, or you're not balancing it right with your strength work. So I think there is a massive amount of benefit to having some type of program to follow. But I think most people hate running because they go out way too fast and just run as fast as possible for every single run and never focus on slowing down. And I know that is probably backwards for some of you listening, because some of you listening, maybe you are more intermediate and you are going fast and you're frustrated because everyone is telling you to do more slow work and that feels wrong. But I think a lot of the beginners or people who are non-runners and want to run hate it because they treat it like the mile in gym class where you just go and you go as fast as possible and it's this miserable thing and you finish and you're like, oh, I never want to run again. Well, I wouldn't want to do that either if that was my beginner journey to running. I think, I think that, just my perspective, that is the biggest reason people hate it. And yeah, I think that tops it for me.
So just thinking about that for a second, if you are going out and you're coming back huffing and puffing every single run and you're new to it, like you're not doing that purposely, these aren't tempo runs, you're just going out trying to get into a groove and like you are wheezing by the end of these things, scale it back. And for a lot of you, that could even be like a run walk setup. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, just kind of monitor your pace of breathing and like, hey, could I hold a conversation at this pace? If not, slow it down further. If there's nothing else to slow down, start walking. And I did that for a while too last year. That was when I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad. But at the same time, like, am I supposed to be walking? Like, this feels counterproductive. But I was doing the run walk and maintaining right around the 130 beats per minute. So that would be red flag one. If you are coming back exhausted, like you should feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, you should feel like you have more left in the tank when you're done with the run, because that's where I'm at right now. Even post 7 miles now, as I'm starting to build up some mileage on those long days, I feel like I have more.
Yeah, I mean, I think to an extent, right? Like if we're talking to someone who is brand new to all cardio in general and is starting to run, like you're going to finish a run probably if your cardio base is like very low and you're going to be tired. So I think there's that individual perception there too, just based on your current fitness level. For someone like you who has done cardio, just hasn't done it super consistently, who hasn't ran super consistently, yeah, like you're not going out pushing as hard as you can, RPE 9 or 10 of every run. Like that's an effort session, what we call an effort session, or a workout, quote unquote. That's what runners call like their speed work sometimes. And really, we should only be doing, like when you're talking about beginner to intermediate runners, you really only are doing an effort session or a true running workout once or twice per week max, majority of you listening. So if you're going out and doing all this speed work more than that, and your goal is to get better at running longer distances, you do need to scale it back and do more of those easy runs and conversational runs to help build that aerobic capacity. And that's how we are able to run longer and feel better while we're running longer and not feel like we're totally just on E for every single run.
One thing you mentioned briefly before, I want to circle back to before we go full force into the running side, but balancing lifting with running. They both help each other. Running is going to help lifting is going to help running. But just the schedule wise, the recovery wise, fitting these things in, we can talk a little bit about what we're personally doing right now. So within the app, the new app that we have been using, so the Fitness League app we're talking about, these programs are still in the SDE method. They're organized a bit better in the Fitness League because you can enroll in multiple programs, and then on the dashboard, you can kind of swipe through to see where you're at in each program. Right up top, one thing that provides some additional flexibility is we outline the number of days in the week within the app, but we don't say you must do X, Y, or Z on Monday and Tuesday and what, like, it's build your own schedule, learn what you respond best to, like what you recover best with and what fits into your schedule best. So right now I'm currently enrolled in, it's September 1st. So the September Evolve program and the Begin Half running program. So those are both 4 days a week. My lifting, I have scaled back overall volume. Even before I dove into the running program, I've been scaling volume back strength training wise. I've been recovering better. I can go to a higher intensity. It's not impacting progress aesthetically or strength wise. Like I'm crushing it both areas because I scaled back. So there's less cumulative fatigue. We have a whole episode on this like 3 or 4 episodes ago. So you can go watch that whole breakdown there or listen to it. But that's my balance. I start my running week on Sunday. I start my lifting week on Monday. So my runs, and I'm flexible when needed, but typically Sunday, Monday is my first 2 runs. My third run is based on the current schedule is the long run. So then I will lift also on Monday and Tuesday. I'll take a day off from running on that Tuesday because that's leg day. So when I take the Wednesday off from lifting, I'll do my longer run day. So I'm not going a leg day into a longer run. And then I'll finish out the week with my last 2 lifts and my last run. But again, flexible based on recovery. That's kind of what I've learned is helping me recover best now. It works best with the schedule. I can move those things around a little bit if needed. I know you do your longer run on the weekend, but it's very important to not, I would say, not gloss over the strength training side if you're a runner, and if you're a lifter, don't gloss over the running side of things. Incorporate something for each, even if it's, again, if it's quote unquote unstructured, but you're getting out for a day or 2 a week. Set it down like you are following a program. Like, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be a longer, easier run, and just commit to that just so you're doing consistently and can see some progress. But right now I'm on a 4 and 4 split.
Yeah, I'll go into mine in a second, but I do want to highlight what you just said. You should be doing both, whether you are a runner and want to get really great at running, or a lifter. I guess lifters don't necessarily have to run, but you should be doing both when it comes to cardio and strength training. Those are the epitome of health when it comes to taking care of your body. It's not a trend to be like hybrid athlete is a trend right now, and that's fine. I think it's great that it's a trend because all people should be doing both some type of endurance, cardio based work and strength based work. Now, how much you do of one or the other depends on your goals, and it is going to often change as you go through the year. So if you think about a full year of your fitness goals, and we've talked about this before, and how you don't necessarily want to map out like a dieting phase per se, but when you look at your fitness goals, you should be able to generally map out like, okay, I want to train for this fall half marathon, so leading up to that for 12, 16, maybe for some of you 20 weeks, depending on where you're starting off, I'm going to have running be the priority, and I'm still going to lift, but that's going to be the second, number 2. Once that half marathon is complete, maybe, winter rolls around, you want to focus more on strength and lifting. It flip-flops, and lifting becomes the priority, and running is still happening, just not as much volume as you were doing to train for the race. So I want to highlight the fact that we should be periodizing our training programming, and you're not always going to be heavy on one side versus the other. And I think it's healthy to at least have some sort of off season for race training or off season for your strength training and focus on cardio. Like, that's great. So it is very individual based on like what your goals are, where you're starting off, what you want to do, what your schedule looks like. That's another big thing. Like, we have a pretty flexible schedule, obviously, to an extent. There are seasons where we are prioritizing work, and we're kind of, I don't want to say we're not coming out of that, but it's I think we both have really found our groove with prioritizing lifting and running right now. And it does take up a lot of time throughout your day to run and to lift. And I know a lot of you don't have 2+ hours per day to do a long run and a lift session. So you kind of have to look at it like, what can my schedule allow? What am I going to prioritize initially right now? And set your training program up based on those things. So for me right now, for most of postpartum
Before you jump into yours, can I just tackle that last part too? So when I said I scale back volume, the Evolve training program, it's actually an ideal complement to doing a longer term running program because they're short and efficient. So not only is it only 4 days, but I'm typically, like, my longest workout's 40 minutes. I can blast through those even faster if I really want to cut down rest. But to that point, like, if you are training for a race or if you're not training for a race, it's going to kind of change the variables a bit as far as how hard and how not dedicated, but specific you need to be and intentional with the process and with the practice. So if you do have very minimal time and a race is your current priority, get 2 or 3 20-minute strength training sessions in, with equipment, without equipment. Doing something is going to be important. On the other side of that, you're not training for a race, you're still cut down on time. Can you do 2, 3, 4 days, 20 to 30 minutes lifting, go for a 20 to 30 minute run, 2, 3, 4 days a week? Finding that balance, finding that hybrid, again, like you mentioned, including both, making sure you're doing enough of both to optimize overall health, and then everything else gets better along the way. But point being, like, you need to include something on both sides. And like, I'm adamant about this now after having been very specific to strength training for many, many years, just feeling the benefits regardless of if there's a race happening or not. But the point is to be flexible, and that's really the point of the Fitness League app, is to provide those different options, those different variations at home, minimal equipment, no equipment, in the gym. Again, not necessarily to plug the Fitness League app specifically. Like, you can do this on your own. We created these things and these options for that exact purpose. Whether you're training for something specifically or it's just overall health and maintenance, whether you have the time or you don't, finding those minimal pockets to include those pieces that you need.
I think that's a great point, and that's honestly a really big mistake. A lot of, I think, whether you're going from mostly lifting and adding in running or vice versa, is like, let's say a lifter is starting to run, they keep their lifting protocol exactly the same and they just try to add running in. And there's very minimal times where I recommend that. Like, typically your lift volume and maybe not necessarily intensity, but I would say overall volume will have to start to scale back as your runs start to scale up. And I think that's just, I mean, that's a great example of making this individualized to yourself too. So I think that also helps people as far as like, if you're struggling with balancing the time for both, you probably are trying to keep one of the things, whatever you started with, exactly the same, when in reality, we need to switch some things around. Maybe it's less days per week, maybe it's shorter sessions, and keeping that intensity high. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's an overlooked piece of the puzzle, especially with all of these hybrid athletes out there right now. It's like, you think you have to do it all and do it all to this elite level of like, let me do my bodybuilding and be an elite runner, and like, it's just not going to happen. You have to periodize it, and you have to let go in some area when you're trying to get better at the other area. Not fully, but you have to scale back.
I would say it depends on your starting point, though. So I can feel the apprehension and anxiety of the audience listening when you say that. If you're training 6 days a week, 90-minute sessions in the gym, like lifting, you're likely going to have to scale that back if you want to start on a running program. If you're starting on a 3 or 4 day, even an hour long per session type of split, you may not have to change anything. If you're running 2 or 3 days a week, and those are going to be like easy aerobic building runs, aerobic capacity building runs, like, you may not have to change anything. Maybe you bump food intake up a little bit, which is a nice positive. You can eat some more. You may not have to change anything. If you don't want to allocate all that time, you can certainly scale back in one or the other. There's also going to be this apprehension where you're like, well, I don't want to lose my gains. I don't want to lose my strength. And I don't want to lose the aesthetics I've been working so hard for. I want to keep building. And you can. Like I mentioned, I went from 5 or 6 days a week, 60 to 90-minute sessions. At my lowest, I was doing 3 days a week and I was still fine. Right now, I'm at 4 days per week, 30 to 45-minute sessions, maybe 50 if I'm doing some videos and taking my time. But like the workout itself, typically 30 to 45 minutes. And I'm progressing great. I feel great. Energy is up. I'm performing extremely well. It's going up every single week. My aesthetics continue to improve. If we got crazy stuff going on, it's been parties all the time. So maintaining at least where I'm at through all the barbecues and birthday parties and all that. Not party, but like kid party, family parties. And again, that's with significantly less volume, but the correct intensity with each set. So nothing goes to waste. There's ways to be more efficient about it. I just wanted to throw that in because I know, especially if running's been on your radar, but you don't know where to find the time and you don't want to, risk losing what you've been building in the gym. It is something you're going to have to work through mentally. But once you get into that for the next few weeks and you see, okay, I'm not losing all this on this side, you're going to feel a lot better about it. And you're going to feel way better once you actually notice the benefits of that hybrid type training. Hey guys, real quick. If you've been listening and thinking, I need to start doing something for my health, but I don't have time for a full program, that is literally why we built the SDE Method app. It's a fitness app made for real people with real lives. Busy parents, working professionals, anyone juggling 100 things. You can get in, get a smart, effective workout in around 30 minutes, some even closer to 20 minutes, and log out knowing you made progress. You can finally take the guessing out of your workouts. We have workouts designed to be done at the gym or at home, and you get access to all of them when you sign up. As life phases change, you can pick a new one that aligns better with what you have going on right now. And one more thing, we are also qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. So just hit the app link in the show notes, start where you are, we'll help with the rest. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. Nuance is important, and we are missing our nuance queen today. But I was going into just my journey this go around. So obviously had a baby February, and my goal at the time after having Wes was to rebuild strength. I knew strength had to come first if I wanted to feel good and not have any issues just pelvic floor wise and just in general running. Like I wanted to be my strongest self as a runner eventually, but strength had to come first. So that was my main priority from literally day one. I followed the Postpartum Forever program. Day one postpartum, first 6 weeks, more rehab, core work, mobility type stuff. After the first 6 weeks, you go into phase two, and that is more of like the reintroduction to typical what you would think of as an exercise, adding some weight and all of that. I did that for another maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And then I transitioned back to our build program. And that was my priority for the first 3-4 months, probably even closer to 5 months postpartum. And over this last month and a half or so, I've really switched gears and have started the rebuild of my running volume. And I've been increasing, having some down weeks every third week. And I'm back up to last week, I hit 23 miles for the week. We're still going up from there. So I just want to reiterate how important it is to have those periodized months and time frames of your programming depending on where you're starting from, and you're going to eventually get to the point where that flip-flops and you set a new goal or whatever it is, and you can switch things over. And I'm still following build. I'm still doing 4 days per week right now. There might be a point where I scale that back down to 3 days per week, so the move program, but I'm feeling good, progressing in my lifts. I'm getting stronger. My runs are getting faster, and obviously with the season change, like going from summer to fall, that has everything feeling really great right now. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And I think just periodizing is so important, and having a plan is so important, and having just it just feels good to have a clear picture of like, okay, this is what I'm focusing on. This is going to guide me here. I'm going to get here, and then I'm going to switch gears and follow this next phase and focus on running here. And then we can go from there once I finish this out.
So along the same lines, what are some signs to pay attention for that would say you're overtraining versus under recovering?
You just feel like death. You're sore all the time. It never lets up. You're not progressing with your strength work. Your runs are not progressing. You're not getting a breath of fresh air on any run. Like your speed work, your workouts are going to feel hard, but if you don't feel good after, like the next day, the day after that, and you're sore for like days on end, you're probably not recovering well, whether that's not sleeping enough, not eating enough, programming is all over the place. Those are really the three biggest pieces of recovery, I think, is having a good program, sleep, and consistent nutrition. And I think sleep and nutrition are often the things people we know struggle with the most. But if you're not progressing and you're not happy with your progress, you have to look there first and dial that in first. Nothing else is going to fix those things if those things are not where they need to be.
All right, we covered we covered strides and then like pacing, intensity of those runs. Are there any other big mistakes that new runners make that we missed?
Honestly, I think those are the biggest two. I would say just having a solid pair of running shoes. If that's not something that is like woo, like that actually makes a difference. Go to a running store if you have one local to you and try on a bunch of different kinds, because I can tell you, like, I used to just buy based on what was the prettiest or what this person was wearing, and it doesn't matter. Like, you could buy your favorite influencer's favorite shoe, and that might be like just a terrible fit for you or something that feels terrible. So go try things on if you can. It does make a difference. And if you're using really old shoes, make sure, like, I think the threshold is around like 3 to 350 miles per shoe before they're like, time to get a new one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you were just influenced into buying shoes without trying them on because they looked pretty.
I did. Well, no, actually you are wrong, because I have those shoes. I had those shoes.
Those exact shoes, the Pegasus 41s.
Pegasus ones, I have those and I've worn them for speed workouts, but I just got the color that you influenced me to get because it's our TFL brand color. So you are wrong for once. And I got it on air.
Looks like I'm on point for the next 99. All right, when it comes to building a sustainable running habit, let's talk about some key components and you can give us some general guidelines. Frequency.
So all of these, as we go into them, are gonna depend on the person. But as far as building, are you saying like building their own program?
No, yes, I guess. So how many times per week? Let's say they're not following any of ours. They're getting started on their own. They're building this out. How many times per week are they running? Should they run? Baseline.
If you're totally a novice, one time per week is great. Like if you're not doing anything at all right now and you're struggling to be consistent, shoot for one, maybe two if you can get two in, but I would start with no more than that as a total beginner to running.
Is that beginner optimal? That's beginner acceptable. Now, is beginner optimal one or two, or is it two or three?
I think it honestly depends on the person. If they're truly a beginner and have done no cardio and have done no running, that is optimal for them because we want to increase. It's the 10% rule. So as you progress your running, you don't want to increase too much too soon because that's how you get injured. That's how you start to experience like the tendonitis type things where your Achilles hurt or your knee hurts or whatever, like these tiny little nagging injuries start to happen and you burn out if you go any faster than that. So no more than 10% per week of your total mileage for the week is what you want to increase by. So let's say you do your first 2 weeks one time per week or twice per week. We get to the next 2 weeks, maybe we add one more session in for a short duration. And then we get to the next month and we add, like, you can progress slowly. And it also depends on, like, you can progress, like, you don't necessarily have to add in another day. You can add more mileage into the days that you're already doing. So it really does depend, like, what your goals are and where you're starting from as far as frequency goes, in my opinion.
And then just a quick clarification on intensity. What should that look like? You're focusing on just building some aerobic capacity, fairly new, beginner runner. What does that feel
Yeah.
like?
If you're a beginner, you don't need to focus on speed off the bat. I would focus on building your capacity first, building up your total volume first. So I would do all zone 2, easy pace, conversational until you get to a point where you can run, whether you get to the 5K distance or 10K distance, whatever you're shooting for. You know, once you get to a distance where you feel like you've got a few sessions in per week, you feel really good, then you can switch and do not switch, but add in one speed session per week. But your speed session, like most of your runs, I would say 80% of them should be in that zone 2 not cardiovascular, it's conversational pace, and then have that specific speed workout, whether it's a tempo run or intervals or whatever you're adding in, which we will have in the app for you guys to pick and choose from. Add those in once per week. Don't overdo those, even if it's something you really enjoy. Like if your goal is to do more over time, like keep that at once per week, especially if you notice recovery is starting to dip too.
Recovery we'll just hit on real quick. She gave us the warning signs. You just feel crappy later that day, the next day. So the two primary pieces you're going to be focusing on are going to be nutrition and sleep when it comes to recovery. So nutrition, it's not even necessarily going to be that you're losing weight, but if you're just feeling the grind, you're feeling the burnout, you're tired throughout the day, you're constantly sore, you just don't have that vitality, we probably want to bring calories up, but we also need to pay attention to sleep because sleep is going to be a big component here too. So the minimum we're striving for is 7 hours per night. And that doesn't mean I'm going to hit 7 hours occasionally, or, you know, if you go 4 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, okay, we worked up to 7 hours. You're accumulating sleep debt, which we've talked about a couple times, where you pay interest on. So it doesn't just go away and now I'm hitting 7 hours. You are building up this constant debt that's just breaking your body down. Whether you feel okay and you're thriving off coffee and stimulants to bring you back up and like, okay, no, I'm good now. You're still playing, there's still being a toll being paid through your hormones and all kinds of things metabolically. So we're striving to hit that minimum 7 hours, but if you're chronically under, there is still a debt to be paid back. So really make sure we're paying attention to that. And sleep consistency is very important, going to bed, waking up at the same time throughout the week. But if you have a debt to pay down, like I'm also a supporter of, like, if you got an hour or so on the weekends, like use that to start paying off that sleep debt, because a lot of times there's no other time to do that. So one thought to process along those lines with recovery. Now, as far as trackables and building this running habit, should people worry about tracking pace, heart rate, or is the main thing just showing up? And again, can I have a conversation to this pace? Anything else along those lines they should be thinking about, prioritizing, and you can go just necessity and then optimal if you want to put it in a couple brackets.
Yeah, so as a beginner, like you don't even, I mean, it's helpful to have some type of tracking device just to know how far you're going, I think, but you can use your phone, I think. You can, right? Can you still use your phone for that? It's been so long that I literally don't remember. But you don't need a fancy watch right off the bat. They do have more affordable ones if that's the route you do want to go, but as a beginner, like just focus on running and like being able to hold a conversation without feeling like you're gasping for air after every word, that's a good sign that you're in that zone 2 easy pace zone. And then more optimal, like grab a watch. If you want to be super optimal, get the heart rate strap for your chest, because that's going to be way more accurate than what your wrist-based watch heart rate monitor is doing, and you can kind of keep tabs on both that way. But again, none of that is necessary when it comes to like starting your running journey. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the shiny object syndrome of running right now too, where it's like, I need the best shoes, I need the best watch, I need the best trackables, I need the best headphones and the best short. Like, you don't need any of that. I would say maybe grab one good sports bra, one good pair of shorts that feel good. Shoes are great, obviously. Like, if that's probably the first thing I recommend. And then if you want to grab the watch and all the other things, great, go for it. If you have the ability to invest in that, awesome. But none of that is necessary to be a runner.
All right, let's go with some rapid fire. I'll give you 2 picks on this first one because you can throw them in a couple categories. But favorite shoes right now, you can go long runs and your speed work.
Long runs, I'm a Hoka Mach 6 girl. They're very cushiony. And then for speed work, we have the Nike Pegasus 41s. I've really been loving those. They're a little less, they're still cushiony, but they're a little less cushiony compared to the Hokas. And I just feel like I'm a little bit faster.
Go-to running snack or fuel?
I am a Humagel girl, but I will say you bought the Go Gels, BPN Go Gels. We're Nick Bear fans. We like Nick Bear. I think he's doing incredible things, and they did taste really good. I will say we got is it mixed berry, I think, and I was impressed with how it tasted. I will tell you also the one I despise, and it is the Morton gels, which is very popular amongst many runners. They're flavorless. I cannot get past the texture. I took one mid long run like last year and I almost threw up on the trail because it was like petroleum jelly. So that's just my thoughts on Morton.
And those are about $6 per gel. So I'm glad that you hate them because we would never be buying them. Best weather to run in?
Right now, fall. Once like we get these crisp, brisk mornings, like the transition September, October, November, literally my favorite. And then it gets really cold and I get really sad, but we still do it.
Treadmill or outdoors?
Outdoors. But I will say that both postpartum journeys, I've fallen in love with the treadmill a little bit too, because just being able to get it in during a very short nap when they're super little or just when the kids are around, like I'm very grateful we have that, but I will always pick outdoors first.
Music, podcast, or silence?
That's hard because I've been really loving podcasts. If it's a good podcast and I'm really into it, I will zone out to a good podcast, but I'm not opposed to music either. I haven't done silence in a while, I will say.
All right, so let's summarize some key tips. We want to slow down, start where you are, follow a plan. Even if it's not one of ours, just follow a plan, have a plan in place, 1 or 2 days a week, easy runs, pick a mileage, and build on that. No more than 10% growth each week, increasing each week. Walk breaks are okay, and the progress is about consistency. Now, again, I know I did a soft little plug for the Fitness League app that is not live yet. We are currently wrapping up challenges within the app, and that's going to be this really cool new feature that we will then extend our beta. We will be doing a soft launch at that point, which means that you guys will know about it. Everyone on our waiting list will be the first to know about it, and we won't be doing this big marketing push. We're going to get you guys on. We're going to get your feedback. The platform is going to grow with you, so we're going to be relying on your feedback. This is for you. You are the Fitness League, as we have said for a long time, and now I hope this makes a bit more sense when we say it. So the tools you're looking for, the way you want to use it, this thing is a living, breathing organism, and we're going to be getting your feedback on all of that. So coming soon. Right now, these programs, everything we talk about is still in the SDE Method app, and it will be for the foreseeable future. Even after we launch, there will be a transition period. So you can still jump in there. That, I believe, is still linked in the show notes. Anything running-wise we missed that you want to make sure we tackle?
I actually threw up a question box and said, ask your questions immediately if you want us to cover them today. And if you don't make it, we'll do another follow-up episode. I have a couple I think we can touch on really quick and just kind of do rapid fire. So the first one was potential causes or fixes for low back pain during running, which I hear pretty often too with a lot of newer or even intermediate runners. And that's typically overstriding is the cause of that. So we talked about that earlier in the episode, as well as weak glutes or hips. So if your glutes are weak and you're not striding the right way, just think about that. Like if you have weak glutes, your posture, your pelvis is tilted in the wrong direction pretty much, which is gonna cause some back pain. And that's typically the reason that we see it happening during or after a run.
Listen, if you're tired of the all or nothing cycles, the diet starts Monday, the I know what to do, I'm just not doing it feeling, we should probably talk. Our one-on-one online coaching isn't just about workouts and meal plans. It's about building something that actually fits your life. No cookie cutter templates, no guilt, just real coaching and real results. Plus, we've got a pretty big team, so we can even pair you with an expert who actually understands your lifestyle because they've gone through it too. If that sounds like what you've been missing, check out the link in the show notes to apply for coaching. Then we'll send you the link to book a free, no obligation consult call with our team. There are no hard closes. We won't even take your credit card over the phone. You'll get the details to sign up on your own time. And more good news, we are in fact qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. One last thing, we even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Spots are limited, so apply today. All right, let's get back to the show.
So I would focus on strength and glutes and legs, and as well as just making sure you're not overstriding and fixing that stride length a bit too. But I see that pretty often, which surprised me at first because you would not think that would be a common thing, but I guess when you dive deeper and think about it. For a run/walk, if your heart rate is out of zone 2 during your run, should you walk until you're back in zone 2 and then run? You want to take it?
I would say yes. I think we touched on this a bit before, but the point, like your body doesn't really understand, hey, I'm running versus, hey, I'm walking. The point of building aerobic capacity is to maintain a heart rate. So being in that zone 2 heart rate. So if you're walking because you're trying to bring your heart rate back down or maintain that level, you're within that zone. So zone 2 work, zone 2 run, whatever you want to call it, I would say the walk run technique is going to be very beneficial for those who are starting out.
Someone said, how do I build to running faster if I'm only running twice per week? I would say make one of those sessions a speed session and keep the other one your easy pace, more zone 2 session. Jenna asked, how do I run with a laughing face? Just run, Jenna. You just got to get out there and do it. Like that's the most simple answer I can give you. Let's see. A lot of these are about like zone 2 and like the heart rate is too high. And again, you guys, like if it's consistently above, I guess to clarify that a little bit too, there is, like we all know, the 220 minus your age equation as far as figuring out what your heart rate zone should be. But you can also do a like 30 or 60 minute time trial test where you just run as fast as you can to sustain that distance for either 30 minutes or 60 minutes and kind of we have this in the app. So it's called, I don't even know what I have it as in the app, what it's called, but it's basically to help you figure out your zones. You do this run test first, and that's going to be more accurate because it allows for that individual metrics versus just a calculator. Like we know, even with macros, like if you do a macro calculator, it's a very generic thing, which is fine if like you're starting out and you just kind of want to gauge where you should be. But if you're noticing, like if you truly feel like you're in that conversational pace and your heart rate is still high, you might have to just do more of like an individual test like that to figure out where it could be. You might just be an outlier of sorts. I don't want to say that and have everybody think they're an outlier because that's probably not the case. But aside from what we've already mentioned, I would look into how you're figuring out what your zones are too. Okay, last one, I guess last two is, what do you do when you get a cramp while you're running? Do you push through or do you walk until it's gone? What do you personally do?
I don't get cramps. I don't know. I ran through the pain in my ankle the other day and just kind of numbed up and we move forward.
I wouldn't say do that. Cramps are typically due to your posture being slightly off. So you might be a little bit more hunched over. So I would try to open up your chest a little bit more while you're running. Or it could be like due to something you ate before. Maybe you're not as hydrated as you should be. Maybe your electrolyte balance is off. So there's a few reasons why cramping might be happening. If it is pretty severe and you feel like you cannot run through it, then obviously do not run through it and stop and walk until it goes away. But if it's happening regularly, I would look into one of those scenarios, because it shouldn't be something that happens every run that you go out on. And then last one is breathing through your nose really that much better. It's harder for me to do when I'm running. So I think the recommendation, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, or in and out through your nose, I think are like the two best.
That's for optimization, but you're going to get to a point where you need more volume of oxygen, which is when you switch to your mouth. But especially if you're trying to stay in zone 2, you should be able to inhale through your mouth, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth to try to optimize oxygen utilization. But again, if you have your heart rate start creeping up, you're leaving that zone, you need more oxygen, you will eventually switch to just mouth breathing.
Sorry, I muted myself. I would say practice it. I was just saying, like, I think back to when I started running, like, it, for a lot of you, it might feel abnormal. It might not be what your norm is, but you do ideally want to try to breathe through your nose if you are trying to maintain that easier pace. So that's what I would recommend. Like, it's hard. It's going to be hard at first if it's not your norm, but practice it, and also make sure that you are in the right zone, because if you're somebody who is going out and running as fast as you can and you're trying to breathe through your nose, probably not going to happen. Yeah, I think that's it. There was a few more that we can just add on to a second episode if you guys want it, or a future Q&A. So feel free to ask in our Q&A box on Facebook. We're doing a Q&A in tomorrow's recording, I believe, right?
Yes. So main theme of today's episode, if you hate running, just a reminder to give it another shot with a slightly different approach, because there's likely a reason why you hate it, and we all need it. But we're going to wrap up this conversation with the reminder that change doesn't come in one big moment. It's built in the ways you keep showing up. Take what you learned today and build the best version of yourself for tomorrow. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
And we will see you guys in the next episode.